If you missed my last video, we was just hearing Born on the Bayou for the first time. Oh my goodness. That right there was a piece of talent, you guys. And I promised y'all I would come over here and check out the tragedy of CCR as it was suggested at the top. So we got the tragedy of Creedence Clearwater Revival. And again, if you missed my last video, we just had a blast. Amazing jam out session checking out Born on the Bayou. So after this video, go check it out. Go have some fun with your boy. We love keeping amazing music alive on this channel. But let's check out this video. I hope everybody is blessed, well, and healthy, and that nothing but the best is going on in all you beautiful people's life. The Keep Coming family. If you're not a part of the Keep Coming family, hit that subscribe button down below. But hey, let's check it out.
In just 3 years, Creedence Clearwater Revival, led by singer John Fogerty, released a slew of memorable rock and roll hits. Behind the scenes, however, the band's surge to the top was marred by infighting and lawsuits. This is the tragic real-life story of CCR.
Oh man, let's check it out.
Creedence Clearwater Revival's famous anti-war tune, Fortunate Son, is sung from the perspective of a less privileged youth who cannot afford to evade the U.S. draft. The song has become synonymous with the era to the point of parody. Songwriter John Fogerty and drummer Doug Clifford, who formed a high school band called the Blue Velvet, along with John's brother Tom and bassist Stu Cook, lived this reality when John and Doug were drafted. Fogerty knew that his draft number was coming up, so he immediately signed on to the U.S. Army Reserves, where he worked as a supply clerk. While only on active duty for 6 months, Fogerty traveled to Fort Bragg in North Carolina, underwent advanced individual training at the Quartermaster School in Fort Lee, Virginia, and between those periods was stationed at Fort Knox. Despite living among fellow soldiers, Fogerty told the Military Times that the Vietnam War was still unpopular with his fellow countrymen. Fogerty told the outlet,
"You know, we had some Vietnam amazing reactions to those songs. Oh man, in the jungle, baby. In the jungle. Yes, indeed. That's one of my favorite tracks, man.
The war was very unpopular, even with us in the military. We weren't in love with that war. Nobody really wanted to go fight in a jungle." Fogerty's time in the military gave him the perspective that eventually led him to write many of his famous songs over the rest of the decade. By 1968, as the war was still raging on, Fogerty's and Clifford's stints in the Army had concluded. By the time Creedence Clearwater Revival performed at Woodstock in the summer of 1969, the band was at their zenith, having just released their third album, the critically acclaimed Green River, 2 weeks prior. CCR came into Woodstock as arguably the top act. John Fogerty had this to say about walking onto the stage that night. "By the time we got to Woodstock, I felt we were the #1 band. Assuming that the Beatles were God, I thought that we were the next thing under them." However, as reported by the Chicago Tribune, Fogerty was so disappointed in CCR's performance that he refused to allow their music to be part of the documentary and live album released the next year. The band's performance, because of technical difficulties and weather delays, was pushed past midnight on Sunday, August 17th. As CCR performed to the 500,000-strong audience, Fogerty said the concertgoers were, quote, "all intertwined and asleep, covered with mud." In an interview with the LA Times, Fogerty looked back on the festival and partially blamed their performance on the Grateful Dead playing too long before.
Well, we were promised a prime time on a Saturday night, like 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
What they didn't tell me is you're going to follow the Grateful Dead.
Live for Live Music says rain badly damaged the Dead's equipment, and the band only played 5 songs during their hour-and-a-half set. Whether it was the Beatles in the 1960s, Fleetwood Mac in the 1970s, or Guns N' Roses in the 1980s, bands tend to hit snags once they've reached the top of the mountain. Creedence Clearwater Revival is only unique in this perspective in terms of how much contempt the bandmates felt for each other, or, to be honest, toward their leader, John Fogerty. Following the release of their debut album and the success of the single Susie Q, The band entered their first Hollywood studio to work on Proud Mary. Fogerty told Sweden's Pop magazine that during the session, the 3 other members became interested in having more of a say in the band's songwriting and recording process. Fogerty, who, aside from rehearsals and live recordings, worked alone on the band's music, sat down at dinner with the band and plainly told them that his direction could keep them from returning to washing cars. Despite being the youngest member of CCR and the younger sibling to bandmate Tom Fogerty, John was in charge, and under his strong and uncompromising leadership, the band was the hottest group in America between 1969 and 1971. The group was a regular at summer festivals and on the pop charts. However, they were also a ticking time bomb, with Tom threatening multiple times to leave because of John. Despite overthrowing the Beatles by 1969 as the highest-selling band in the world, Creedence Clearwater Revival could not sustain itself. John Fogerty was described as an autocrat by Uncut, and even admitted later in life that he held, quote, maniacal control over the band. Per the VH1 documentary Legends, John Fogerty and Creedence Clearwater Revival, the group had reached a boiling point by 1970. Doug Clifford had this to say: "Things were getting very difficult in the business arena. It was taking a toll on John. It was taking a toll on us because we weren't involved in these meetings and we weren't getting information back from John." A meeting was called on the eve of recording their 7th album, and the 3 other members of CCR demanded more say in the band. Rising pressure within the band, his failing marriage to his wife Martha, and the desire to remain on top of the music scene eventually led John to concede to their demands.
As much as we hated each other, it all came back like we liked each other more than anybody else.
Soon after the meeting that was supposed to ease the tension between John and the rest of the members of Creedence Clearwater Revival, the first shoe fell. Tom announced he was leaving CCR in January 1971. In an interview with Uncut, drummer Doug Clifford, Tom's closest ally in the band, said of the anger between the 2 brothers, "Tom had put up with a lot of stuff from John. He didn't want Tom to succeed. Tom tried to downplay his exit, saying it wasn't planned, that there was no bad blood, and that he needed to develop his own talent." Doug and Stu now had more power in CCR with fewer members and John loosening the reins. Still, Tom left the biggest band in the world at their peak. With Tom gone and the quartet down to a power trio, it was time for Creedence Clearwater Revival to return to the studio and pump out another classic album, 1972's Mardi Gras. That was the plan, at least. With the continued tension and anger in the band toward leader John Fogerty, the 3 split the songwriting and singing responsibilities between them, and CCR's 7th studio album became their final and most disappointing. Rolling Stone's John Landau even called Mardi Gras the worst album released by a major rock group. However, the album was boosted to number 12 on the Billboard album chart thanks to the John Fogerty-penned tune Sweet Hitchhiker. John only wrote 3 songs for the album, though, and sang a cover of Ricky Nelson's Hello, Mary Lou. Stu Cook and Doug Clifford took the new freedom Fogerty gave them and penned and sang their own songs. The album failed to generate the same critical and commercial success as CCR's previous efforts. Songs by both Stu Cook and John Fogerty seem to describe their strained relationship and the band's inevitable demise, such as Take It Like a Friend by Cook and Looking for a Reason by Fogerty. According to the Daily Review, Fogerty told John Landau that he allowed the members to sing their songs to illustrate how much better he was by comparison.
This is why I love these videos, man. It's just so much I don't know. You know, and again, y'all might know, but I don't know. Again, I was introduced to CCR last year, and we had amazing reactions. First time hearing, and you guys showed so much love on those videos, you know, thousands of comments, likes, and we just rocked out, you know. But I never knew the full story. I never knew, you know, what truly went down, you know. All I did was just listen to their, you know, amazing performances, musics, you know, and stuff like that. So, man.
Unsurprisingly, Mardi Gras was the last straw for Creedence Clearwater Revival, and the group dissolved shortly after. However, this wasn't the end of conflicts between CCR and John Fogerty. Fogerty fought everyone connected to CCR's music, and in the years after the band's breakup, that included the label that owned the songs he wrote and sang. For decades, Fogerty refused to perform his old CCR songs, blaming the bad deal he made with Fantasy Records in his early days for his boycott. Per the deal, Fantasy had the exclusive publishing rights to Fogerty's music. Fogerty and Fantasy Records head Saul Zaentz grew to hate each other during and after CCR.
Wow.
When the group broke up in 1972, Saul refused to let John out of his contract, something he did for the other members, until he fulfilled the agreement. As a result, Fogerty refused to work with Zaentz. When Zaentz sold off his interest in Fantasy Records, Fogerty returned to the label, released the album Revival in 2007, and became more comfortable performing his old songs again. Tom and John Fogerty's story, unfortunately, does not have a happy ending. After leaving Creedence Clearwater Revival, Tom firmly put himself in Saul Zaentz's camp in John's legal battles against Saul and Fantasy Records. John said he attempted to mend fences with his brother for the sake of their mother. The pair talked on the phone and agreed to write down the grievances they had with each other so they could work them out. However, after John accused his brother of suing him and Tom denied it, the pair split again. Tom had filed suit against John in 1978, though Tom dropped the suit 5 years later. Tragically, in the 1980s, Tom went to the hospital for back surgery. He received a blood transfusion and became infected with the HIV virus from tainted blood. I Love Classic Rock reports that the pair never reconciled before Tom's death, leaving John to move forward regretting his fallout with his brother. John had this to say about forgiving his brother. At some point, I made a point to myself of forgiving my brother. I just felt like I had to do that because he wasn't around for me to get to work it out with him. The only positive aspect of Creedence Clearwater Revival's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony was that it didn't turn into a riot. Aside from that, the ceremony was racked with bitter emotions between the three surviving members. Following the presentation given by Bruce Springsteen and speeches from the three living members, a reunion performance was expected. But John Fogerty refused to share the stage with Stu Cook and Doug Clifford and instead gave a performance with a band of other rock musicians, leaving two CCR members to watch others play their songs. The reason for the snub was Fogerty's bitterness over the continued lawsuits against him by Fantasy, which the two surviving members had a role in. In his autobiography, Fogerty wrote about the bad blood between himself and Clifford that led to the difficult induction ceremony. In 1985, Fogerty released a song called The Old Man Down the Road. Saul Zaentz ultimately sued Fogerty over the song because it sounded too similar to the CCR tune Run Through the Jungle, which was also written by Fogerty.
I've written a new song, and they want to contend that the new song plagiarizes their song.
Writing in his autobiography, Fogerty revealed that his lawyers had asked
man.
Saul Zaentz why he sued John for The Old Man Down the Road, and Zaentz told him that Clifford had played the song in his office and pushed the record executive to sue. Fogerty felt betrayed, and after learning of CCR's induction, he originally didn't even want to stand next to his former bandmates. While a true Creedence Clearwater Revival reunion is impossible without Tom Fogerty, there have still been rumors and hopes that the three surviving members will put aside their differences and perform under the CCR name. This has largely been wishful thinking, as the band remains extremely angry at each other. In 1995, following the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame snub, Doug Clifford and Stu Cook began touring as Creedence Clearwater Revisited. The group announced their retirement following their 2019 tour, which irked John Fogerty, as the announcement came right at the beginning of his residency in Las Vegas. Fogerty had sued the duo in the past, challenging the use of a similar name to the original band and forcing them to change it until an appellate court ruled in their favor. In 2014, the two members and the estate of Tom Fogerty sued John for trademark infringement over a series of album-length performance concerts. Fogerty countersued. So while it seems that CCR's days of performing are long over, their short time in the spotlight left the world a collection of classic rock anthems and an even bigger collection of messy lawsuits and broken relationships. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus,
Just kind of just slaps me upside the head, you know. Man, someone says John doesn't get enough credit as a composer songwriter. Proud Mary alone puts him amongst the greatest of all time. Man. After 50 years, CCR remains to this day one of my all-time favorite bands. The humanity of their songs is eternal, and transcends the boundary of pop music. I've thought about having Up Around the Bend played at my funeral. Up Around the Bend played at my funeral. I gotta go listen to that. There's a lot of tracks and songs that I'm still going to have to listen to for the first time on this channel with you guys. You know, with the Keep Coming family. I love y'all, man. So today, like I said, I just checked out Born on the Bayou in my last video I just recorded, and we had so much fun. So y'all probably seen that video before you came over here. And if you're seeing this, then you can just go. I will leave somewhere right here where you can click on it. But man, oh, these fellas made amazing music, man. And I'm just glad that it's a blessing that I have this platform and I have you guys, and I can go back on the time machine and hear it, you know. So I love y'all, man. But I'm glad I got to just learn something new today, you know, just hit upside the head, you know. But I love y'all. Y'all spread that love. You never know what somebody's going through. And I will catch you beautiful people in the next one. Peace and love, you guys.